Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Thursday night. It is time for Revolutionary Change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager, and you've got a nice vest on.
My keffiyeh.
Keffiyeh, Sophia, you know.
It's a keffiyeh.
Plus the earrings.
I'm very method tonight.
Why are you feeling so method tonight, Jen?
I don't know. I feel like we've been talking about everything else but Gaza lately. And I think that that's also very intentional. And I think that a lot of people have just sort of given that up.
Oh, I don't think people have given that up, but I do think that people are very much, I don't even necessarily want to qualify it as just being distracted. I think we're just kind of stuck in a situation where we're being hit with like a lot of different things at once, and we don't really have much of a choice. We have to adjust on the fly. And so I feel that that's kind of where we're at right now, is making sure that we don't lose sight of the significance of what is going on over there. And I think a lot of, you could say that the Epstein files are a distraction, but in reality, I think that they are very much connected in that respect.
I think it's both. I mean, I think that when you look at it, nothing is a straight line. It's always sort of like dimensional and intersectional. And so Epstein and that ilk of people are all connected, right? Like it's all connected to empire and what's going on. So no, I think it's related for sure, but it is also a distraction in the moment to what is happening in Gaza, which is my understanding is they're killing anywhere from 20 to 70 people a day. In Gaza. And that doesn't include the expansion that's been continuing in the West Bank. And I mean, when I say distraction, I don't mean not real. I mean, keeping everybody not looking at what the Zio state is doing to the Palestinians right now and distracting us with Iran and all of, all the stuff.
Well, I think it's a good place to lead off then with this lady obviously remains anonymous. She did not declare who she was, but she had some things to say about her service as an IDF soldier that is continuing as we speak.
I speak on behalf of the Jewish people. My name is Anat Morad, and I'm from Israel.
I am from Israel.
Have you heard of Israel? You have? Well, I hope you heard only good things. We in Israel believe in shooting ourselves in the foot. We don't waste any time. We do exactly everything upside down, because that way we can be special, God's chosen people. After we shoot ourselves in the foot, we blame the Palestinians, because to blame the Palestinians is a very special honor that only we get to do. Do you ever get to blame Palestinians for what you do, your crimes? It's much easier to go through life that way.
If you go through life basically under the pretense that you can do no wrong, then you end up with scumbags like this, who perhaps is having an epiphany. The one thing that I noticed quite a bit in the past year, which you probably noticed as well, is that there were a number of IDF soldiers that were offing themselves. And you'd have to wonder what it was that possessed them to want to go in that direction. Why would they decide, I can't take this anymore? I'm not exactly convinced that it has anything to do with them feeling bad for the Palestinian people. I just think that there's a number of Israelis that are aware of what the future holds for their people, like what's coming, how the arc of history is bending against them, and it's starting to happen now. We heard, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that, first of all, people that serve, and even in this country, suicide is not uncommon. They have obviously higher suicide rates, higher domestic violence rates. There's a lot of statistics that demonstrate essentially the results PTSD. So of course, it makes sense that they would have that. And as much as Israelis are raised and brainwashed to hate, I still think that killing innocents is like antithetic to humanity in a way. So even though it might not be conscious, it does make sense that it's like your conscious, subconscious. It's how do you make sense of that? So yeah, no, they're having definitely increased suicides, increased desertions. Their military is not in a good way.
Yeah, and I think that that's only going to continue to get worse as we go forward. And that's why you're going to have some people that are going to sound the alarm sooner rather than later. They're going to see what's happening and why they're going to need to. In this case, this woman is more or less, making her hostage video, I suppose, thinking that, hey, I just want everybody to know that I said what we were doing was wrong. I know I killed about a few dozen.
How old is this video though? Because it's just, she says Ex-IDF. Okay.
Pretty recent. And so, yeah, again, I have no sympathy. I appreciate her candor, but sympathy, zero.
No, I don't have sympathy. I'm not saying I have sympathy. I just am acknowledging the reason that ex-soldiers commit, that take care of themselves in that way is because it is still against like what we're supposed to do as people.
Ask me, especially when we are the biggest criminals in the world. Do you remember when we bombed King David Hotel long time ago? No? Good, forget about that. Remember what we did to the flotilla to Gaza? You don't? Good. Good. Stay ignorant. It's good for us. And if you have, full leftist, how dare you be educated and know what's going on? Anyway, I wanted to tell you about my stupid, crazy sister. She refused to be a soldier. Huh? Is she crazy? Why refuse to be a soldier? It's a good thing to die for a piece of land. But she refused to be a soldier without even one lie. And using the psychiatrist. I told you she's crazy. She used to go to the psychiatrist all the time in the army and cry and say, I don't want to be in the army. Well, and they used to make her wait for hours to see the psychiatrist. So she would be waiting in this hall room with usually 6 other men soldiers. And they would be crying and crying. And she'd tell them, why are you crying? And they tell her, we will never forgive ourselves for what we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there will be no sympathy.
I'm not suggesting sympathy, but it is definitely like a prelude to what is down the road for what happens in the Zio society post this, what's going on right now. They're going to be full of people that are just so beyond damaged. So,
and all in the name of what exactly? I still don't fully understand. The whims of a one madman? No.
She just said it's for land.
Yeah, for land.
But she's being very sarcastic.
No, I think that she's probably having somewhat of an outer body experience, and this is her way of expressing, going through some form of therapy, I guess. It's kind of like
she's traumatized.
Yeah, well, it's like when Larry Bowman came on the other day and talked about being on the USS Liberty, and he said to be able to talk about this is therapeutic. Like, yeah, I understand. And sometimes some people, even though they know they're guilty and they know they're going down perhaps in a very uncomfortable form of justice that may be awaiting them, I think in some respects they feel that they have to do this to cleanse their soul. They have
I don't know. I think that they're seriously just so deranged, and a lot of them are going to have psychotic breaks. That's what I think.
Well, I think she's definitely having one, and she's having it in a very unique kind of way.
Like, what did you do? You are being a soldier fighting for a piece of land. What are you crying about? Anyway, then she tries to go and have lunch. When she went to have lunch, she can hear this sound from the lunch while she's eating her knedlach. Good food in the Israeli army, best food in the...
Okay, what is that exactly?
Knedlach?
Knedlach?
I'm not sure. Knedlach. It's like, I want to say it's something like dumpling-like. But I'm not sure.
It sounds like potato-y, like a Russian Polish type thing.
Well, it might be like a potato dumpling. I don't
Well,
know.
considering that they're all from Russia and Poland anyway, it doesn't surprise me that they would incorporate something from there and claim it's Israeli. But of course, that's what they do.
Well, so she's eating her knedlach and her lunch, and she can hear, ooh, ooh. She thought there was a war going on. Who knows? Nuclear weapons. Sounded very weird, like creepy. So she goes outside, and what does she see? She saw 2,000 boys crying. But crying like a baby when you change their nappy and they're not in the mood for you. Like that. She never forgot that. Until this day, she says, there must be something bad going on that they're not telling us about. I say to her, what? She says, I don't know. Nobody knows. The boys wouldn't tell me. I mean, her.
That's not, like, that's somebody who's not mentally solid. That is not a mentally solid person. That's somebody who's very traumatized.
Yeah, how could you be? Anything less. But how do we know that the arc of history is bending in the direction of justice? How do we know it's actually heading in that direction?
I know.
If you will. Yeah,
because 3 years ago, we weren't sitting here and talking about this like we are right now.
No, that's true. That definitely does play a role for sure, and I agree. However, we are now starting to see remnants of that change happening. From the Middle East Eye, France issues arrest warrants for French Israeli women accused of inciting genocide. So there you go. Warrants targeted 2 activists, use that term loosely, accused of helping obstruct life-saving supplies to Palestinians in Gaza during a famine. You mean the famine that's still going on right now? French-Israeli Nili Kupfer-Neori and Rachel Tuito face arrest warrants in France for their role in the Gaza genocide. So
but they're French citizens as well. So that's that, I wonder if they're back in France now and, what's going to happen, because warrants for people that are not coming back.
That's a good point. And that's fair. France has issued arrest warrants for 2 French-Israeli women accused of blocking humanitarian aid convoys headed to the besieged Gaza Strip during Israel's genocide, Le Monde reported on Monday. I think that's how you say it. Investigators suspect the 2 women of complicity in incitement to genocide in Gaza. French authorities issued the warrants over the summer as part of a wider inquiry into French citizens involved in disrupting aid deliveries. The women, born in France and now living in Israel.
There it is. Okay.
Nili Kupfer-Neori, who led the organization Israel is Forever, sounds like it sounds like Heaven's Gate. That's what that sounds like to me. They're all going to drink the cyanide when push comes to shove. At the end of the road, when they have nowhere to go, they're all going to dress in the purple robes and the black Nikes, and they're going to take their cyanide. That's what's going to happen. And Rachel Tuito, an activist linked to SAV9. The warrants follow complaints filed by French Palestinian citizens and human rights groups, which urge French authorities to act against dual nationals that played a direct role in obstructing life-saving assistance during Gaza's humanitarian catastrophe. It's one way of describing it. In June of 24, the U.S. Department of State designated SAV9 a violent extremist Israeli group that has been blocking, harassing, and damaging convoys carrying life-saving humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Over months, activists connected to the group targeted aid routes from Jordan towards Gaza, including in the occupied West Bank, using road blockades that at times turned violent. You think? They also vandalized trucks and dumped vital supplies onto roads as Israel's aid blockade pushed Gaza deeper into famine. You said that the thing that is going to kill the most Palestinians over the course of this genocide was the famine. The malnutrition
and subsequent diseases and illnesses as a result of both famine and lack of sanitary conditions.
Serious human rights abuses. On May 13th, 2024, SAV9 members looted and then set fire to 2 trucks near Hebron, in the West Bank. I thought there was no Hamas in the West Bank, Jen. That's what I was told.
There is no Hamas in the West Bank.
Carrying humanitarian aid destined for civilians in Gaza. Tutu attacked the French justice system in comments to Le Monde.
It's Le Monde. It's Le Monde.
I'm not as sophisticated. I'm trying.
I'm just helping.
In the Le Monde saying, I noticed that the French justice system handles a complaint filed by a radical pro-Palestinian organization faster than complaints filed by Lawyers Without Borders and the European Jewish Organization against manifestations of support for terrorism by radical left-wing members of parliament.
I'm sure there's such radical left-wing members of parliament. Can someone tell me which parliament on the planet has a radical left? Seriously, how many nations have, whether it's a parliament, legislature, Congress, whatever they call, how many have a radical left? That's interesting, because I'm pretty sure that France does not. I'm pretty sure that none of our allies have that.
Well, I wouldn't even consider it to be necessarily a radical left situation as it would be defined by somebody like this, where it's basically anybody who's even slightly off outside of the far right. Like, to them, that's the definition of a leftist in their mind. One complainant said the warrants showed that finally the French justice system is taking action. The complainant also said Kupfernuri has spent years making statements encouraging crimes against humanity and genocide. Jen, you've been saying it for the longest time. There really is something to be said for how much, in many cases, more bloodthirsty the women are compared to the men.
Yeah. Well, I think they feel more emboldened. They're much more brazen. And I think that's because they have an even greater sense of entitlement. Like I said, they don't worry about somebody putting hands on them. That's what I think, yeah.
There's a reason they're called jabs. The French Jewish Organization for Peace, which also filed a complaint, said the warrants reflected the gravity of the women's actions. Collaboration in genocide is not an abstract concept. It involves very concrete and specific actions. In May of 24, Meta suspended Facebook and Instagram accounts linked to SOV9 after the group used the platforms to organize raids on aid convoys. Imagine how many deaths they're responsible for. The European Union has also sanctioned the group, saying its actions worsen Gaza's suffering. Those actions contributed further to the already dire situation of the civilian population in Gaza, adding, SOV9 is responsible for serious human rights abuses. Why don't you just say what needs to be said and say that they are guilty of crimes against humanity and that they are responsible for probably thousands of deaths?
Well, and they're one of many groups. Again, like that's one of many groups. And this does seem to me largely performative. Like I said, these women are in Israel right now. They're at this point, what the government in France is saying is, if you come back, this is what's awaiting you. So it's basically like a head, right? They're not going to, I don't think anybody's hunting them down, but they're also making a point. Like I said, so it is somewhat performative, and a lot of what our peer nations do is performative, because at the end of the day, they're not really doing anything to help the Palestinians. So they might be willing to criticize the Israelis and the extremists, but they're not necessarily going to put their necks out to help save any Palestinians. So while I appreciate that, it's a little, it falls a little flat.
Well, considering how many are already deceased, how many more are going to be deceased, like I said, and like I'm sure you would agree, so much of what they're attempting to do now is cover their own asses because they know that the walls are eventually going to close in upon them. How else could they, what other rationalization could there possibly be? I don't think there is one.
Well, we're also dealing with psychopathy here, right? Like we're dealing with people that are not rational actors. So it's hard to make any sort of reasonable assessment of people that are not acting rationally. Right? Like that's a big part of the problem.
So I believe our guest has arrived a little early this evening. Is that true?
That's okay. I mean,
Maybe he wants to see how we roll. There's also that fact.
Yeah, well, that's fine. We could go however, I don't care.
Yeah.
We're just here shooting the shit, But I think that at the end of the day, that they're going to be irrelevant and have to live in hiding to some extent. And it's not going to end well for them.
No, and it can't end well for them. That's the thing. That's why you're seeing some of the mea culpas coming out now, because some of them understand that, well, yeah, there's probably, again, history is repeating itself. A number of them are going to flee to places like Argentina. Obviously, we know what's going on in Cyprus. They've been rejected.
I feel bad for them. That's the worst. And you know why? Because, the Cypriots, those people live in a very small space. So it's, per capita, for the size of the place, they are so overrun and infested. Well, like Argentinians, I don't wish Israelis on anybody, but at least in Argentina, there's a lot more elbow room. I don't like people aren't on top of each other there. But
the scariest part about them, as we have seen, as we've covered recently, is that the Israelis are also known arsonists. They will go into places and they will set forestry on fire for the purpose of cultivating land, for the purpose of building homes. Who's to say that that's not a common practice in places like Gaza and the West Bank? That they're incorporating tactics that they've been using for many years. That's the news story.
Yeah, nothing is new that's happening. Nothing has been new since October 7th. It's just expedited and greater, but nothing is new. Their mission has always been to eradicate the Palestinian people, the Palestinian problem, right? Sort of like Hitler said, the Jewish problem. So that's always been the mission. So that's not new. Just the tactics and strategy are on, hyperdrive right now.
Erik, are you ready to roll with us? You want to hop in early? Well, we can't hear you from back there. You have a thumbs up?
Yeah. Okay.
That's a thumbs up. One of the things that we've talked about at great length is that if we're going to create a movement that is going to break the stranglehold that is this Zio state control over our country, considering that we are headed for some type of a revolution, hence revolutionary change, we have to be able to collaborate with as many people as possible that have a similar mission. Now, not all those missions are going to be 100% agreeable, but the core principles are what counts. And if there's somebody who is out there doing exceptional work, especially highlighting all of the insanity, depravity, and outright lunacy that is the Zio state, it is Erik Warsaw. Welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Hello, thank you for having me. How was my audio?
Excellent.
Hi, it's good. Excellent. It's good to meet you. I've been following you for a long time on Instagram.
Oh, appreciate you very, very much. My Instagram started kicking into high gear recently after TikTok went down too. They absolutely butchered TikTok. As soon as Larry
that's
Ellison,
the one place I haven't been, so I have noticed a change since people have been being,
There's a great exodus. Everyone's leaving. They jumped more on Instagram, X, and upscrolled especially. Upscrolled like literally had over 1 million new people joining in the course of 1 week. So that is excellent. Excellent. And it's good to have it's good to be spread out a little bit on different because it makes it harder for them to suppress us because they have to suppress us from many different directions. So that's excellent. And you know what's sad is they're going to try to clamp down on upscroll just because they always try to force that media monopoly. They will always try to infiltrate, do censorship by the 1,001 cuts. And so we're going to see if they can hold up because, they took down TikTok. TikTok was owned by China, and China's a superpower. So let's hold up. Let's pray that this guy holds up too, who owns Upscrolled.
Yeah, they're going to give him it's not going to be easy. He's definitely in for whatever challenges that they're going to throw in front of him. But I just wanted to ask you, so how did you get involved in doing content creation? Like, what was your inspiration? Because most people, especially over the past 2 years, people generally have some turning point or some moment when they just, whatever it was that they felt the need to put content out there and be sort of fighting against this empire.
I was not a content creator or anything at all before October 7th, 2023. But on October 7th, 2023, I knew the circumstances. I knew everything that was going on over there. I knew what a Zionist was. I knew what a Palestinian was. I was already educated in that area. So October 7th happened. I seen it all over TV. I was kind of disgusted by it because I knew right ahead of time, I'm like, they're going to change the narrative. They're going to blame them for falsely being terrorists and all that sort of stuff. And then so it was October 8th, the very next day, 11 o'clock in the morning. I had a little bit of free time and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a 1-hour live show on TikTok. And I had such crazy viewership that I stayed on for 9.5 hours. I had 250,000 people see me that first day. Wow. And I stayed on it hard because I was like, this is only going to last a few days, 2 weeks at the most. They're going to stop and they're going to move on. But they didn't stop. I didn't know that at the start. But my first TikTok live show, just talking to people, it was just mostly Americans, white, black, Hispanic, all Americans. And I was showing them, probably for their first time, showing them both Republicans and Democrats all putting on the tiny little hat, going to the wall. There's pictures of this all over the internet, explaining to them what no one even knew what a Palestinian was, explaining them what the Zionist was, what a Palestinian was, what IDF was, Iron Dome. And it was kind of like mind-blowing to a lot of people. So I was happy to introduce it to them. And I stayed popular ever since. And I just stayed on it. I was literally doing this on average 8 to 10 hours a day, every day. And I never took a day off since that time.
Okay, so
this is the moment in history.
What did you do before that?
I had a bunch of odd jobs, but I was really into politics because like whenever I was at work and stuff like that, I was always listening to like news radio in the background. I would listen to Fox News, CNN, NPR. I listen to everything just out of curiosity. I really like that. I like reading history books and everything like that. And that's why I already like kind of knew all this, the background stuff. Now, one hell of a trip, man. It changed history. October 7th changed the course of history. And we're still in the middle of that change. And we haven't found out yet if the good guys are going to win or not. So, and that's another thing I keep reminding people is like, you know, if you look at history books, the sad, ugly truth is the bad guys usually win. In history books, the bad guys usually win. In oppressive governments, look at Joseph Stalin's Russia, Chairman Mao's China. Decades, they horribly oppressed their people. No hero, no knight in shining armor ever came up and saved the day. I mean, that's a sad truth. The bad guys usually win. And I don't say that to scare people. I'm like, I tell people like, you know, listen, you have to compromise and work better with your allies and work harder, work smarter, work tougher, because it's not guaranteed just because we're right that we're going to win. It is not guaranteed that we're going to win just because we're right. You know, it goes to the laws of morality versus the laws of the jungle. The laws of morality is, you know, who is right and who is wrong. Laws of the jungle, it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong, who has more guns, who's more oppressive, who's going to take that. It's up for our leaders to align the laws of morality with the laws of the jungle so that those who are, you know, everyone has a fair hearing and say, and that we don't use excessive force without good reason. But right now that's not the case. And you know, they're oppressing everybody, the whole entire Middle East, America, and everything. So it's a crazy world right now.
Well, so much of this is just really about money and power. There really is no substance past that. I just think that there are too many people with their hands out. And my personal experience has always been Israelis are not liked. I don't think they ever were. But because they have so much control within the financial systems of not just the United States, but the world over, there's a lot of people who simply tolerate them. But I think that tolerance is reaching a breaking point. I don't think it's going to last. And I think that the future in terms of Israel's control, at least in the United States, is going to have a breaking point in the not too distant future. Your thoughts?
Oh, man. I'll tell you one thing. When Israel's influence and control does break, it's going to break hard. It's going to break fast. And it's going to break bad. There's many, many people who can't wait to have their freedom again. America, like look at all the countries that's considered part of ZOG, the Zionist occupied governments. America, England, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Canada, Australia, because they felt like taking over Australia too for some reason. And now Venezuela is going to be theirs. It's unbelievable. So when it breaks, it's going to break hard. But also too, and we always have to look at like right now, are we winning? In some ways we're winning, and in some ways we're not winning. Because ever since October 7th, they've been expanding. They flipped over Syria. They put puppet Joseph Aoun in charge of Lebanon. They took over Venezuela. Our college campuses were huge areas of protests. Where's our college campus protest now? Extremely small. They did manage to clamp down on college kid protests. Right now, everyone is protesting back and forth and arguing over ICE, which is a legitimate thing, concern, but I also feel like it's a distraction. I think that's just a sad fact. I think it's a major distraction to us right now. I wish we would stay focused on Epstein, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Greenland, and of course, as always, Palestine, where it all began. And so are we winning? Some ways we're winning, some ways we're losing. We have still failed to, as much as they've assassinated, look at all their assassinations. Yahya Sinwar, Abu Ubaidah, Nasrallah, Raisi of Iran. They so many heroes they took out. And now what have we done to them? We have still failed to dislodge a single person from power, from their position in the ADL, APAC, or any real positions of power, even in the media. We've exposed them, but we have yet to force them out. So in a way, they're kind of winning. We're going to see who wins the battle at the end, who wins the war. But I mean, they keep knocking up W's. And I mean, we got to fight like hell. This is our time.
I think that unfortunately it's going to get increasingly more and more violent. I do agree that what's happening with ICE is a distraction for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, just punching down in general and going after immigrants is completely, I mean, we know that's like, oh, look, a squirrel, right? Like that's, you know, don't worry about the fact that you can't afford to live and you can't afford housing and you don't have healthcare. The immigrant problem is the real problem. So always that's a distraction for the way to get everybody to be fighting amongst ourselves instead of punching up. So I think that is a huge part of it. And yeah, they're fleecing Gaza, but I do not believe that their plan in Gaza, that, you know, Gazan Riviera, whatever, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So I understand what you're saying from a perspective of, yeah, it looks like they're winning because they are in control, it seems, but I do not see them reaching their end goal. I don't see that happening for them. And I think that's ultimately going to be the problem for them.
Yeah, and I also think that there's something to be said for, as you alluded to, there are distractions that are out there, but the Israelis, especially in most parts of the United States, with rare exceptions, they're like persona non grata now. Like people don't want anything to do with them. And we'll see if that actually ends up taking effect at the ballot box, even though we both agree that elections really do not have anywhere near as much relevance as they once did for obvious reasons. But it can be used as a weapon, which we need to cultivate more effectively. I think the fact that there's interest in potentially breaking finally in a much more substantial way from the two-party duopoly is a great sign. They're going to employ their tactics and their tricks to try to continue to support the Zio state. But in the long run, it's not going to work. It's just not. There's too many of us now. I mean, yeah, the suppression is going to continue in earnest, but when you're awake, you're not going back to sleep. That much I believe. I believe once you see it, you can't unsee it. And there's too many cross collaborations now with people in all different walks of the political spectrum life, where prior to this probably would not be doing that. But the fact that it is happening is all the more reason to believe that something substantial may be happening. It doesn't happen overnight. I wish people would understand that these things take time. Convincing people to get out of their comfort zones is not an easy thing to do, but we're doing it every day. And that's why we do the shows that we do.
100%. And I'm also like-minded, like, you know, when it comes to this upcoming midterm elections, because the presidential elections are the biggest set of elections, but every 2 years in between. We have the midterm elections, and they're huge. And right now, it does look good for the candidates we do have out there. Zoran Mamdani kind of broke the spell. He came out of nowhere. He was an absolute nobody, and he won in a landslide, just for the sole reason he opposed Israel. I mean, really, nobody cared if that he was a socialist. No one cared the exaggerated claims that he was a communist. No one cared. They liked him because he was pro-America, and he actually cared about New Yorkers. And so he set a part of change. And so we're looking at the same Republican, chase him out of both parties. I support Republicans, Democrats, and independents as long as they're anti-Zionist. And I don't want the Zionists to have a political party that they can latch onto and influence. I want them out of both parties. Chase them thoroughly out of the country. And yeah.
That's who we should be deporting.
Yes.
Well, and I've been saying this for a long time. I recently just moved out of South Florida, and one of the reasons is the complete Zios. It's like it's suffocating there. It's suffocating. And so, you know, when I think about the immigration, when I hear immigration problem, like the only immigration problem that I know of is the Israelis. That's the only immigration problem I'm aware of. And that is an infestation.
Deport. Yes, deport them. Love it.
And I also think that we're also entering a period right now where they call it the great noticing. It's like people are seeing the tactics that they're employing, and it's just not working like it used to, which again is very satisfying to me. I know that you're probably familiar with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I figured, you know, Jen is going to have to suffer. She's not going to suffer alone.
Yes, he wants you to suffer with all of us, Erik. You're going to get to enjoy the presence of Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
In light of everything that's going on, And this is a video that dropped earlier today. This is what she spends
her time. Today.
This is from today. This is what she spends her time doing. Hang on.
Office. I was part of the first congressional delegation that was in the region on October 7th, when 250 plus hostages were taken after Hamas's brutal assault on Israel on the 7th. We were in Israel on October 10th, and over the last 2.5 years, getting closer to 3 now, I have spent so much time with these families, so much time meeting and talking with hostage family members.
She has a very bad sense of time. It's not almost 3 years. That would be October, which is 10 months or 9 months from now. But, you know, who's counting? You know, who doesn't, or the end of October or October 7th. Yeah. So, you know, again, bad sense of time, among other things.
Returned hostages themselves. And last week, we finally were able to see the remains of the last Israeli hostage held, Ron Gavili, brought home to Israel. And in the days after I returned from Israel, after that brutal experience, to honor the hostages and to make sure that everyone who came through the threshold of my door focused on the absolute need to fight to bring them home.
Jen,
Peter, did I tell you I updated my so-called Congresswoman graphic of Debbie Wasserman? All right,
I didn't know that.
All right, you're here for a premiere, Erik. You're going to see something premiere.
That's accurate. That's accurate.
How come I don't even see it? It's weird that I don't see it.
When you are entering Congress or you're entering the office of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the first thing she wants you to know, the second you walk in that door, is who she represents. Who does she represent? The state of Israel. She's making that pretty clear. Now, I don't know how much of the district in question still feels this way or holds these types of similar thoughts, but I would imagine, Jen, when you ran for Congress, that there were many other issues that were concerns to the community that she clearly has not addressed in over 20 years.
No, she doesn't care about that. And the fact that she's even wasting time right now talking about the situation. Let's say hypothetically that the Israeli hostages was your focus. All right, they got their last bodies. So now what? So move on. What's your, like, why is she spending time talking about this? Why is this such a big deal? Why are Israelis that are not even her constituents her concern?
Well, what else is she going to talk about?
I don't know.
Well,
Well, that's true. She doesn't do anything else. It's not like she's going to give us healthcare or anything. So
yeah. I mean, I guess, Eric, at this point, what does it really come down to? You think it's, I mean, honestly, I don't trust elections. I think there's an incredible amount of cheating that goes on. And as, I mean, again, you could say it's at the ballot box, but there's so much more to it than that. There's so many different layers. There's so many different tactics that are employed in terms of bribing people, threatening people, which of course Debbie does in spades. But there's something to be said for people who also have just kind of given up on the electoral process. Do you feel that there's going to be a sea change when it comes to these pro-Israel representatives?
Man, first, geez, she pushed that October 7th forever thing. Are we voting our way out of this? Are we voting our way out of this? Sometimes I wonder if just thinking about voting our way out of it, is it being naive? Is it being idealistic? These are the same people that just overthrew the whole government of Venezuela by force. They killed over 20,000 children in the course of 2 years. They run Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile rings and everything. Like, are we really going to vote our way out of this? Are they just going to accept a vote and just pack up their stuff and just, not control America anymore? And are we going to vote them out of the media? Are we going to vote out BlackRock? I mean, there's some things that not really up to vote, is there? I don't think we're voting our way out of this. That's my personal opinion. I've listened to a lot of other people give their personal opinion. And the sad truth might actually be that that we might need more advanced ways of taking back our country. And that might be a sad, sad truth. Peaceful protest, they ignore peaceful protest. They love peaceful protest. They can watch peaceful protest outside their window.
Yes.
For real, I mean, a force in the field is a force in diplomacy. I forget which politician said that, but a force in the field is a force in diplomacy. Otherwise, they can ignore. They don't have to negotiate with us. They don't have to do anything with us. If there was if there was more than just peaceful protesters, if there was people outside their windows with bricks and other things and really scared the hell out of them, then they would have to negotiate. But right now, they don't even have to negotiate. They can look down upon us and try and sit and work and figure out their next angle to distract us or whatever. And right now, they do control the monopoly of violence. They can touch us, but we can't touch them. They have the monopoly of violence. When their monopoly of violence ends and they get touched as much as they touch others, then that'll be a different story. And they will have to negotiate, and they will have to come to the table, and they'll have to come to terms, and they will have to release things. Because these people, it's not actually going to let go of power. It's not just money and power. It's also safety to them. As soon as they let go, as soon as the ADL drops and APAC drop, they're not safe anymore. They're going to end up in prison or much, much worse. Look at all these IDF soldiers. They can't travel abroad. Where the hell are they going to go? They're in a do or die position. They have nothing else they can do.
They'll go to Florida. That's where they'll go.
Or Florida. Yeah,
that's true.
That's where they can go. They can go to Argentina or they can go to Florida. I mean, I think we should just give them Florida.
Or Southeast Florida. They can't have the whole state.
Exactly.
But we should build a big, beautiful wall around Southeast Florida.
Yes, and put all of the Zios in it. Correct. Yes.
Well, let's not keep her up forever. Let's see what else this wizard of South Florida has to say.
Now that they are all back and this chapter is closed, I'll be able to finally take down these photos and celebrate the fact that for the first time since 2014, there are no Israeli hostages in Gaza. And I continue to stand with Israel, continue to support the U.S.-Israel relationship. I'm Israel Chai.
Okay. I don't think we need to see any more of this. But one more.
It was really the Israel Chai for me that just really put me over the edge.
Well, let's put you over the edge. Well, let's do it one more time.
To support the U.S.-Israel relationship. I'm Israel Chai.
Make
Yeah,
it
she
stop.
really is that, Eric.
Is she
really
doing
is
the
that
meme? Is she
She's
doing
that
the meme right there?
like she's really that meme.
Oh,
She is the meme. She's doing the meme right there.
oh, she is. Please make it stop.
Why do
here.
they do that? That's a natural thing they all do.
Well, the one thing and listen, I pointed this out. I pointed it out to, I believe, a mutual friend, Anthony Aguilar. I said it to Clyde, and I say to them, especially regarding Bolzarian and Jake Shields, it's like, if you make this a Jew thing, that only helps them. That's what they're counting on. They're counting on them. Everyone's saying, oh, it's all the Jews. It's a lot of Jews, but you can't say it's the Jews. First of all, it's a class war. So it's really the elite class of people that are really into this shit.
Yeah.
You get past that. People like Wasserman and Schultz are counting on people saying that this is a Jewish problem because that helps Israel maintain its fiefdom. If this just becomes, let them continue to spew the nonsense about how everyone's anti-Semitic and everybody hates Jews. No, we hate your ideology. We hate everything that you do. And we hate that you have control over our lives through foreign and even domestic policy in our government. I would think that most people would agree, yeah, that's probably not something I would be agreeable to. And they can continue spewing their garbage as much as they want. But as you mentioned a little while ago, Zohar Mamdani really defied the odds by winning that race, not just because he's an Indian Muslim, but because he defied everything that the Israeli lobby stood for. Even if you don't agree with his politics, the fact that he stood up to them and he won in New York shows that this change can actually happen. If he can do it, and granted, he's a great politician, but there's a lot of people who are capable of leading and extolling support from from all over the place. I believe that if he can do it, many others can. And that's why, as much as things look fairly dire, even still, night's always darkest before the dawn. And I do believe things will get better. Despite what Heil, Wasserman, Schultz has to say, I think that the days of people like that dominating our political discourse are numbered. I do believe that.
Yeah, the odds of Zoran Mamdani winning, you got to remember the population, the Jewish population in New York City is so large that I think it's like 1 out of every 16 Jewish people in the entire world live in New York City. That's their highest concentration of millionaires and billionaires and everything too. That is their stronghold. They could not hold down their biggest stronghold, and spent $40 million against him. Had Fox News and CNN and Democrats and everybody, Democrats and Republicans, turn against him, and they still couldn't do nothing. The will of the people actually won. If they can't hold down New York City, they can't hold down nothing. And you're 100% right. Instead of there are a lot of Jews on our side. So it's always very, very appropriate to use appropriate language, specifically Zionist, because Zionists, above all, give them the worst name. It's hurting their reputation. It's putting them at risk. And so 100% on we have to be careful with our language and vocabulary because we have a lot of allies. We don't want to, they put in a lot of work. We can't turn our back on them. They're helping us 100%.
Well, and we also know their arguments from being on the other side. We know where they're coming from. And they hate us more. Trust me. The Zionists hate the Jewish anti-Zionists more than they hate pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, they do.
I have learned.
Well, they see themselves as a monolith. That's the problem. And anybody who deviates from that monolith is considered again, it's very much like Scientology. You're a suppressive person. You're not one of us. Get out of our network, if you will. We don't want you here. And while that has probably worked very effectively for many a year, many a generation even, I don't think it's going to continue to work. I just don't see it. And I think the spilling of the blood of these innocent Palestinians that is still going on every day, they can only, like you said, there's a lot of distractions out there, but they can only continue to sweep it under the rug for so long. Even though I do think some of these other stories have a lot of relevance in terms of what's going on right now, particularly when it comes to Epstein, because I still believe that the only reason why these stories have been suppressed, everyone thinks it's about Trump. Well, Trump definitely plays a role for sure, but at the end of the day, this is all about Israel. That's all that the Epstein files have ever been about. It was a clandestine Mossad operation for many a year, and Epstein was their agent. He was the conduit that brought all of these people together and essentially ran the blackmail operation. And what are they going to do when they don't have that type of control anymore? I mean, now they're going to such depths of desperation, as I'm sure you've been seeing out of the UK in particular, by suggesting that Epstein is a Russia agent. I mean, we're bringing that back into the conversation. We're going back there. We're going to say this is Russia, Russia, Russia. It's the Russians.
Oh, the deflection is ridiculous. That remember early on, a couple of years ago, they were blaming the pro-Palestine protests in the college campuses on being funded from Iran and China.
Right.
And Nancy Pelosi making that ridiculous comment. And Jeffrey Epstein's island, the weird temple he has in the white and blue. They're saying, oh no, that was not the model after the Israeli flag. That's off of the Greek flag, because the Greek flag is red, white, and blue. Like, Jeffrey Epstein is Jewish. Why would he, on God's green earth, do it for based on like a Greek flag? I mean, deflection of, because here's the thing is, like, even a bad lie is better than nothing at all. So, because even a bad lie will trick at least 5% of the population or whatever. So I think that's the way because they tell some really bad lies, don't they? I mean, there's a lot of lies. Like, why would you even bother saying that? Remember, Hamas blew up their own hospital. That sort of stuff. Like, really? Come on, guy.
Well, people in the beginning of this, like, for the first month or so, at least after October 7th, you did have a lot of people buying it more. Okay. Because, when they bombed the first hospital or the second hospital, then, okay, well, that was a mistake. But then as you've seen, their numbers are decreasing in terms of how many people that actually believe them now. So over the past few years, they have no credibility. Nobody believes a word that they say. But the problem is, even though we don't believe them, there doesn't seem to ever be any accountability. Just like the Epstein files. We now know that our president was measuring girls' vaginas and auctioning them. And we're just all existing, knowing that. Like, that's insane. And it's the same thing with why would Israel care? They have complete impunity.
For now.
Yes, I do think that it's dying off. And I do think that the change is generational. I think people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, people that support her, that's older people. No young people are coming out, registering to vote and supporting Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Nobody registering to vote is going gung-ho Israel, except for the very small niche of people that are brainwashed from their families. Like, it's a very small group. But generationally, these people are not having it, and they're not registering as Democrats or Republicans either.
Yes. I'm really, really glad the whole left wing versus right thing is kind of breaking down. Because for real, if we're ever going to have a revolution, the difference between a revolution and a civil war is that in a civil war, half the country fights the other half. It's horizontal. Right. And where in a revolutionary war, it's all the people unite together and fight the evil government, the crooked government. Yes. It's vertical, not horizontal. So what we want is a revolution, not a civil war. And by the whole left wing versus right wing thing breaking down and us uniting, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to really start with, to be able to have a revolutionary war. Because a civil war, they're going to win. They're going to take up both positions on both sides, and they're going to win. A civil war would be absolutely pointless and a waste of time and human life. And the Revolutionary War, it's like pretty much a necessity now. For real, our ancestors threw revolutions for less stuff than this. I mean, we're run by a bunch of pedophiles.
They're killing citizens in the street now, executing them, like summary executions in the street. And, I've seen it suggested in the chat, and I've said it many times, nobody should pay taxes this year. Nobody should pay taxes this year. There should be I know that people say, yes, will they withhold your taxes? Yes, I know that a lot of people don't have that option as they get a paycheck. But for people that do, nobody should pay their taxes this year. This is absurd what's going on. We don't have representation. We have owners.
Just remember, The Freudian slips are coming fast and furious. Now, I'm sure you've seen this. I don't think you've seen it, Jen. But leave it to Ted Cruz because, of course, he's the person who always tells on himself, and it's true. When you say we're ruled by pedophiles, and they'll say it publicly.
This pattern keeps on happening. Now, Senator Booker also said we should have bipartisan agreement. I think that's a great idea. We should have bipartisan agreement. How about we all come together and say, let's stop murders? How about we all come together and say, let's stop rape? How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles?
One more time, just to be clear.
I just can't.
We all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles.
Well, that's going to be replayed over and over and over and over again.
As much as I loathe Ted Cruz, that is not what I think he meant to say. I mean,
yeah.
I don't.
But as Peter says, like the Freudian slip, what he meant to say and what he did say. I was like, that's a hell of a coincidence because that's what we were all thinking you guys were doing.
Yeah. Well, I think in his mind, he's like, stop defending pedophiles because that is what they do. They do defend
this
pedophiles.
Pattern keeps on happening.
I don't know why that happened again. But yes, that is an example of why this is such a big story and why I think it's relevant because, again, Epstein was probably a Russian spy.
Yeah, Tusk is he's the one that they've also rumored to be taking foreign money too by the you-know-who's. So I've heard that too. So him saying something that ridiculous is more of an indicator who controls him than any objective facts.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's absurd. Why would you even ever say something that
why would you wait
outside reality?
Well, and why would you wait this long? So after all these years,
the timing,
with all the Epstein scandal and all these years, this is now the first time you're first putting out a connection to Russia? It just reeks of desperation.
Yeah. Poland to examine increasingly likely possibility that that's how they spell pedophilia. Scandal was co-organized by intelligence services in Moscow. I tell you, the problem is that
Israel had the office in Moscow. Other than that, I don't see how that would happen.
Right.
Well,
maybe they're setting them up.
What is that even about? Really? Why would you put that down?
What I like here is that I think it's Grok or just like one of those correctors that says Epstein files have many evidence linking him to high-profile Israeli officials, other than his accomplice daughter of Mossad agent Robert Maxwell. He also referred to himself as a Jew and non-Jews as Goyim. Moreover, he traveled to Israel in 2005 during his trial. Yeah, it's Israel. It always has been, it always will be, and they can say that it's Russia. And at this point, we can get upset about it. We could dig in on it, but it's not going to hold, even if Parliament in the UK is deciding that this is a good use of their time right now.
Government think Epstein may have been spying for Vladimir Putin. Is the Prime Minister concerned that Peter Mandelson may have been leaking state secrets, not just to a paedophile American financier?
Whose boots are he licking? Whose boots he licking? This man.
Well, you've also pointed out recently that the UK, in many respects, has even stricter they don't have a First Amendment.
They don't have a First Amendment. They've been having some serious crackdowns on their speech over there.
And yet this is just freewheeling shit that they could just throw in the House of Lords, just saying, oh yeah, it was totally Putin that did this with Jeffrey Epstein. Don't pay any attention to the Israelis.
Well, this is obviously somebody that's a Zio asset. That's just a Zio asset.
Yeah, we've got to really start referring to them as this. And the good news is
Zio tool.
But Eric, I'm sure from your perspective, you would agree that look, when they first pulled this bullshit back in 2015 And we all know it was about Seth Rich and covering for the release of the files through WikiLeaks. They came up with this Russia hoax bullshit. We knew what it was then. We know what it is now. I'd like to think not as many people are drawn into this, because I think so much of what people were drawn into and accepted the Russia hoax, if you will, at face value back in 2015, 2016, is because they could never contemplate the prospect of a President Trump. And then when it became reality, they could not come to terms with it. So they had to create a boogeyman to make an excuse as to why it happened. To employ this tactic now is such Bush League operation that you would think a 5-year-old could smell the rat.
It's like when Trump declared that the Jeffrey Epstein list was a hoax. It's like, all right, come on, like no, it had absolutely no traction in social media or anywhere. It had no traction. This is not going to get any traction. This is just going to be laughed at. This man just did nothing but injure his career, and I mean that it's just at surface value pretty absurd. They're trying to blame their own bad agent on their enemy, and it's just, this is not going to go
right
anywhere.
This is it right here. They don't want to admit that MI6 is involved.
I mean, we know the CIA is involved, so it's not really a stretch to say that MI6 is involved as well. That's the thing. There's these spying networks that exist all over the place, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but he's got a little bit more to say.
A Russian agent.
Well, Mr. Speaker, he talks of a public inquiry. Obviously, the focus now has to be on the criminal investigation which has started. As he knows, that investigation will go wherever the evidence leads it. And I've made it absolutely clear that the government will cooperate, as he would expect, with that criminal investigation wherever it goes.
Yeah, let's be honest. Starmer doesn't really have a spine, but if you think he's the worst defender of this so-called Russia hoax, which again, the fact that we're even saying it is lunacy. But Nigel Farage apparently had something to say as well.
Secrets. This is a potential breach of the Official Secrets Act. It involves the royal family, it involves senior members of government, and who knows, behind it all, maybe even Epstein could have been working for the Putin regime. I believe that this is bigger than Profumo.
Jesus. Whatever. I mean, that's just going to be laughed at. There's absolutely no connection, no nothing. What you said about MI6 and even American intelligence, I really believe that American intelligence and MI6, even the FBI, MI5, so they're all subordinate to the CIA, to Mossad. I don't even look at, very sadly, I do not look at the FBI or CIA in America as like in their own independent entity. I see them as a secondary apparatus to Mossad, where they've even shared information in a one-way trip. Like we share our information with them, but they don't have to share anything with us. The only information that Mossad, Israel, ever shares with us is stuff that is beneficial to them. So like, here's some bad guys, or, by their perspective, a bad guy in the Middle East, somebody that it would be beneficial to them if we took them out. So that's all. It's ridiculous. I think the CIA and FBI, they have like 20,000 agents per year trained by the ADL. I mean, that's an apparatus of Israel. I mean, this is freaking ridiculous. And that's a self-admission from the ADL himself, the head of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt. I mean, this just gets absurd how much detailed control they have in all of our institutions, including our intelligence agencies.
Well, it runs pretty deep. And it's been going on for a very long time. It's not like this is something that just started the other day. When you also have a substantial control over the banking system, that really does play a significant role. And yes, a lot of roads lead to the Rothschilds. We know that. But you can't, it's like what Lincoln said, and I still say this was Lincoln's greatest saying. You can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time. You cannot fool all of the people all of the time. And they have entered that phase where they're trying to fool all of the people all of the time, and it's not working anymore. And once it becomes a clear-cut lie, once it is evident that what you're doing is lying to the general public, you really only need to be caught doing it once, and then you lose all credibility. No one will ever trust you again, and nor should they ever. They shouldn't trust you in the first place. To trust politicians is a non-starter as far as I'm concerned, even ones that seem like decent people, and there's very few. But for those that are decent, you still have to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that there's follow-through. All too often, people like to cheerlead in this country. That's another problem.
My question is, if Epstein was in some way affiliated with Russia and was somehow a Putin operative, why isn't Putin mentioned anywhere in the Epstein files? I mean,
or any major Russian politicians. All their levers of control were on European, American, and some Middle Eastern businessmen and politicians.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty absurd. It is more than absurd.
Yeah.
They even themselves too. There was a lot of Jewish people that Epstein interacted with, and it seems like another way to keep their own people in line, to preserve that monolith. You know, so they don't even have any detractors, especially in the higher ranks. I mean, you had the former Prime Minister Barak, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Ehud Barak.
I mean, for the love of God, he's a former prime minister. He went to see him, and then Noam Chomsky.
Noam Chomsky.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other big Jewish businessmen too that are involved and pushed into pushing Zionist policies. So they're hard on their own people too. I mean, they have ways of influence on their own people too. So, it's a big, ugly, nasty system, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's the way it's. Again, that's why. And again, Anthony Melly mentioning Dershowitz. It's like, yeah, you would look at somebody like Dershowitz and just think, okay, if it isn't because he's a Zionist Jew who is connected at the highest levels of Israeli government and intelligence, for a guy who just oozes pedophilia, like that guy you could see that's the type of guy that like ogles little kids. Like he gives off that lechy vibe in the worst way possible. And yet he's been able to get away with so much for so long. And the only way that that's even plausible, in my opinion, is that he's connected. There's a reason why when Epstein was first arrested, and I was living in South Florida at the time, I was living in Delray Beach. And I remember this because this was like right when I got there, and they basically let him out on like a furlough. Like, okay, you'll sleep in prison at night, but during the day you could go and work and do whatever you want. I mean, you had the attorney, the state attorney Acosta at the time say, well, we were told to back off because he's intelligence. Yes, Epstein was intelligence, and he wasn't Russian intelligence.
No.
That's true. 8 hours a day he was allowed out of that camp prison that he was in. He had a 8 hour per day work leave, like a work furlough. Every single day he could leave the prison 8 hours a day. Like, you basically go to prison to sleep at night. It's not even real prison. It's a federal camp. That's such a Jesus. They spoiled him, and that was only for 1 year. For all the little girls he molested and raped from the start. And then afterwards, he went right back into it. So unbelievable. Unfreaking believable.
Do you know that there's currently a lawsuit right now in Palm Beach County against Donald Trump, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk, claiming the activities from the same Epstein-related trafficking ring, but it's all for things that happened a year after Epstein was already busted, was already done.
Shocker.
So this ring has not stopped. Like, people think it stopped just because some of these people are caught. No, it hasn't stopped. It still goes on. That's the difference. There's not, it's, like you cut off an arm and they just grow another one.
There was another person who did something just like Jeffrey Epstein. His name was Solomon Melgen. He was a Jewish, I think he's an eye doctor. If you remember, this is years ago, the politician Robert Mendez, was a New Jersey
Senator,
and he was the one that took him on an airplane to a portion of the Dominican Republic where he was taking out underage girls around 14 to 16 years old for the American politician to have sex with. And he brought him on his plane several times. And then Salman Melgen, if I remember his name correct, and then afterwards he got a presidential pardon. And then Robert Mendez, he's also one that got caught with all the gold bars, over $100,000 in his house, and the Mercedes convertible as a gift and all that stuff. Yeah, Salman Melgen was running a Jeffrey Epstein-like. I think he's free right now. I'm pretty sure he's free, but he was doing the same thing Jeffrey Epstein was doing to a much smaller scale and only with one politician that we know of as of yet. But they let him slip through the cracks. And really, maybe it's not them that's on us, because we're social media. We're supposed to be exposing this shit until it forces them to confront it and to fix it. So, all right. There's every country runs honey traps. China does it. Russia does it. Just no one really. America does it. Just no one uses underage girls. Israel was doing this with underage girls. I guess that makes the compromise even stronger, doesn't it? But
yeah. Well, traffic is trafficked, right? Like there's traffic, there's consenting and trafficked, and then there's also minors. It's all bad. But yes, when you take away the element of somebody being underage, it takes away that much more of a level of criminality. But these are still people that are being trafficked against their will. So it really doesn't matter that they're of age because they're still not consenting.
Some of them, I think they're like professionally trained, like the women are actual like intelligence officers, highly trained.
Yeah.
In the field.
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, no, that's true. I think some of these people, and I do think this about like Erica Kirk, like there's certain people that to me seem almost like they've been groomed since childhood as well. That these are people that were just sort of brought into this like vile system, but I don't excuse it. I don't think it makes it okay. I think that's where they come from. I don't think they come from like secret op training or anything like that. I think they come from like being, I don't know, plucked out of pageants and given a lot of luxuries and have sugar daddies take care of them. And now they're just very loyal, and they're people like, I don't know, Pam Bondi, or, let the kind of people that they've just sort of groomed all the way along.
That's a good question. I want to look into it because I could see it happening in many different ways, and I'm sure different countries have different methods of picking up their honey traps. The girls who do this, so that's actually something I'll look into, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Erica Kirk is a terrible actress. I mean, I've been pointing that out for the longest time. They've been trying to sell the idea that their hands are squeaky clean, but I've been saying that. The whole thing about Turning Point USA is that it was a organization that was a response to Obama's run in 2008 and the movement that he had cultivated. And then in response, they created this youth-driven organization with Charlie Kirk at the helm to be that response. And it ultimately led, based on the youth movement that they were able to get out to vote, to Trump winning in 2016 and then again in 24. But all the while, people were not necessarily questioning where was the money coming from, who was funding this organization, what were the intentions behind the scenes that no one was talking about. Were there people that were scamming the organization like the Tyler Boyers of the world? Absolutely they were. But in the end, who were they? They're just pawns in a much bigger scheme, which is revolved around the issue of Zionism and how the mission of driving home Jewish and Christian Zionism through a medium like Turning Point USA was so exponentially bigger than anything else that was going on. And the second that the person at the helm decides, I don't really want to do this anymore, and they say, oh, no, you're going to do this, or else. And he decided to question, or else. And then lo and behold, he gets removed. And I think this is a perfect transition to our final topic with you this evening. Little Ben Shapiro decided decided to sweep in with the Daily Wire, but we know it's Israel's money, gives them $1 million right out of the box. Then he gets a speaking spot at AmFest. Then he gets questioned about the USS Liberty, among other things. And the guy just lies through his teeth. And credit to a person who has really stuck to her guns the entire time about little Ben Shapiro. Yes, I know that's two.
Twice.
Candace Owens did a fantastic job of putting this clip together, showing exactly why little Ben Shapiro is a liar.
It never gets old. It never gets old. And the chat, the people love it. You know, the people love it.
Well, we got to give them what they want. That's what it's all about. So here's a string of lies, Jen.
Yes, that is really Ben, for the person asking. That is a teenage Ben Shapiro. And the longer version is he's sitting there and talking to this speed bag like he's going to show us what for. And then that is the result and that is Ben Shapiro, yes.
Jen, how can you tell when an Israeli adjacent individual like Ben Shapiro is lying?
Their lips are moving.
And claim there were tens of thousands of hours of tape. There are, by the way, but they are child pornography. The reason the FBI is not releasing them is because those tapes do not include underage people with third parties on Epstein Island. That is not what the tapes are.
Yeah, I beg to differ. In fact, that's pretty much most of what was on those tapes. Knowing that there was this, like you said, these underage honeypot situations. Now, I'm not saying that they were all underage, but that's how they got people in line. And so to say that little Ben is standing on the railroad tracks for the Zio state, that's all he does. And we've had guests, we've had surviving members of the USS Liberty, multiple surviving members of the USS Liberty on our channel, and we've played them clips in real time of Ben lying about the USS Liberty and them just calling him out, saying, yeah, he's a fucking liar. Well, of course, he's just doing it on behalf of Israel, but to disparage service members, especially those who died from the only maritime attack in our nation's history that wasn't met with any type of retaliation, is a prime example of why the Shapiros of the world are the absolute worst and why we cannot continue to allow them to have the type of discourse and control of discourse that they've had for so very long. We're hopeful that over the course of time, as is the case, because it does appear that the Daily Wire is falling apart, that it will only be a matter of time before he's no longer relevant. And as we have seen, he does farm a lot of his likes and views on his channel. So no surprise.
I also have sources in the federal government who are covering this stuff and have seen the documents. Okay, those tapes are just child porn. That's all. That's what they are. That's why the FBI is not releasing them. Okay, as far as the Epstein list, what I have been told by my sources is that there is no Epstein list. That basically
there's no Epstein list.
There's no Epstein list. No, it was just him and Ghislaine, the two of them working together, trafficking all these girls for their pleasure. To themselves. This is really good, Marvin. The Daily Liar, very good.
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
There's a black book of Jeffrey Epstein contacts, and the vast majority of those contacts are already out there publicly. That's why you know names like Prince Andrew or Alan Dershowitz or some of the names that have been mentioned here. Those contacts, there is no evidence, according to the DOJ and the FBI, and again, that's public. There's no evidence that any of those third parties were having girls trafficked to them.
I mean, he must get paid pretty well to lie like this, you would think. I mean, why else would he
takes orders? He just takes orders. They got a whole apparatus, and they actually do have their. I read a book by Cheryl Atkinson called "The Smear," and she talked about like right wing and left wing news journalists. They get handed the story to go and examine and check out, but when they're writing their articles and stuff like that, they're told to use certain descriptive words. Like if you're describing this person or that person, use the word masculine or this or that. So they're told, not only which stories to pursue, but certain descriptive words, which I'm sure are brought forward by, some psychology study or whatever like that. But Ben Shapiro, yeah, he straight out just works for them. And Ghislaine Maxwell, I want to bring this up too, guys. Ghislaine Maxwell, I've heard 3 different victims give speeches on social media and stuff like that, and they all 3 of them said that Ghislaine Maxwell was worse than Jeffrey Epstein, and also I've heard some of them say that She was at the real brains behind the operation. She was the real brains. Think of it like this too, because Jeffrey Epstein's an old man with gray hair. How's he pulling all these little girls? It's Ghislaine Maxwell that can really trick, convince, and pull the little girls, because she's a woman, so she can use that woman on woman. Immediately break down that, go around the barrier that an old man with gray hair approaching a little girl would have trouble with. So Ghislaine is an evil monster. She is an evil monster.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Jen, you've said that the Zio women are in so many respects worse than the men.
Yeah. Or, I mean, equally, it's equal. I mean, look at, Golda Meir. Golda Meir was very clear that they were going to have to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. And yet she's revered. So, they're just as evil.
Like I said, Israel can have its own country if it wants, but it's not going to have it with our support anymore. And let's see how long they survive. Probably not very long, but let's make it so.
And that is not evidence that was made clear, certainly, to the DOJ or the FBI. Here is Tucker then asserting that it was actually Mossad. Again, without evidence, not a shock. Of course, this is where Tucker was going. This has become the hot speculation on the internet, is without evidence. You say that Mossad was running Jeffrey Epstein. When I say without evidence, I mean without evidence. Naftali Bennett, the former Israeli prime minister, said, quote, "As a former Israeli prime minister, with the Mossad having reported directly to me, I say to you with 100% certainty, the accusation that Jeffrey Epstein somehow worked for Israel or the Mossad running a blackmail ring is categorically and totally false."
I mean, it is totally and categorically true. And Jen, I really think he puts shit on his face to make it look like he has
I don't know what's going on. I do not understand the color disparity between the eyebrows and the facial hair, like the rest of the facial. I do not understand. Why does the beard look like it's just hot? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, that's what I think. Maybe it's shit from sucking someone's, anywho.
He does it all for the money.
Well, he doesn't know what wet pussy is. He doesn't know what wet
personality.
pussy is. What's he supposed to do with that?
He could try to punch a punching bag a little harder next time. Maybe he'll avoid getting hit. Who knows?
Such as Tucker Carlson, pretending they know things they don't. And in fact, I followed up with the former Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, and what he told me is that Mossad has not been active in the United States against the United States since the Jonathan Pollard scandal of 1987, when a U.S. Army contractor who's actually working for the Navy revealed classified information to the Israeli government. He was prosecuted by the United States government and ended up in prison.
I need to watch this whole clip. This is hilarious.
And so Israel since then has not spied on the United States with Mossad.
Okay. I mean, as I've said, if you're going to lie, can you at least come up with a plausible lie? Could you come up with something that maybe we would have to actually do a little research on? They make it too easy. On the surface, it sounds like a lie, and through very little digging in, you realize, oh, yeah, it's a total lie.
It's a lie.
Israel has had nothing to do with any type of intelligence operations in the United States since 1987. That's what you're going with? So Netanyahu Milikowski sitting in front of the House Select Committee in 2001, 2002, saying that we must go to war in Iraq. Like, that's totally no intelligence there. That's just made up shit. Like I said, let them keep going. Let them continue to dig their own grave. And then we will ultimately pick up the pieces when it's all said and done. We don't really have
to hear Ben Shapiro. Why did we have to be subjected to that? He is such a bitch. Like, he's such a little man bitch. Like, he's never been put in his place. And it's unfortunate. It is. It's unfortunate for the rest of us.
My money's on you if you two ever got into a scrap.
Oh. Well, but yeah, again, he lost to a speed bag. So I'm not, so I don't feel like it's me, but yeah,
from one guy to another, the one thing I've noticed, especially when it comes to support for endless war, it's always by very emasculated men that are usually the most eager to say that you have to go and die for what I believe in. It'd be one thing if Shapiro was coming out and saying, I totally believe in this cause and I'm totally going to go fight for the IDF. no, he would never do such a thing. And that's something that is almost universally repeated by anybody else. And I would think that if you truly believed in something that much, that you would be willing to fight on the front lines and die for it. So yeah, that'd be great. So my question to you, Erik, as we wind down the conversation, is something that Jen wanted to address tonight that I think is very important.
Which is,
what do you think is ultimately going to happen with Iran? Do you think that Israel is going to convince this country to go to war in Iran? Or do you think that Trump has at least some semblance of a spine where he understands that if he goes too far with the war games and the saber rattling, that if it actually leads to an actual conflict, that there really is no coming back for the United States? And Iran has made it very clear that they've reached the point of no return. If they get struck, again, they're going to bomb Tel Aviv. They are not hesitating at this point. They've made it clear that they'll do it. So what do you think is ultimately going to happen? Is, will cooler heads prevail? Because I'm already hearing that the supposed meeting that's supposed to take place tomorrow is now not happening. So who the hell knows? But what do you think will ultimately be the outcome?
They've been trying to do this for the past at least 40 years, trying to do all this. And they moved in the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. They moved in a whole bunch of military hardware. Just recently, in the past 2 weeks, we gave Israel our annual tribute of over $3 billion. But just recently, in the past week, we gave them another $6.6 billion in arms sales on top of that, and also $9 billion to Saudi Arabia. So we're doing a heavy arms buildup surrounding Iran right now and getting ready. Now, these negotiations that they're doing, it's not for the fake reasons of just, to disarm their nuclear stuff, which they never have, and all that other stuff. One of the things that they're talking about, they want to limit, they want to be able to stop or limit Iran's ballistic missile capability because of the 12-day war that happened last time, where Israel just got their hole punched in for 12 days straight and couldn't do nothing except for beg America. Yeah. They want to stop Iran from having that capability in the future. And yes, they want Iran to topple. They funded and they pushed for this protest to topple the government recently. The protest failed and died down. They will try again in the future. Will they actually go forward and do heavy strikes? Well, before they took Venezuela, I was telling people, they're going to do maximum pressure. They're going to do everything in their power, but they'll never actually strike it. And they did strike it. So now, to me, it's like, everything is fair game to them. They're going for, and here I have a crazy conspiracy theory is I think Israel's trying to take over the world. I think this is inside their heads. The whole story with the red cows that they're raising. Why would you go through all that trouble to genetically modify, raise cows, to do this if you didn't think that the Messiah would come this generation and that this is the generation for them to actually take over and inherit the world? And remember, too, their Messiah is not supposed to be supernatural. So they can put that title on pretty much anybody. So who knows? Because Benjamin Netanyahu's got a big, giant ego and everything, too. He's no holds bar. I mean, I can't believe some of the stuff that he's done. He's attacked Lebanon. He's just like no breaks, completely reckless and ruthless pursuit of power. And I think he's going for it, man. I think that they're serious about Cuba, Greenland, and Iran. And then after all that, they're going to go further. I mean, I think they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they do control everything. I think that inside their crazy minds, this is the generation that they're going to have their prophecy and all that crazy stuff. So interesting times we live in, for sure, man.
Yeah. I think it's hard to know. They're so imbalanced. We're not dealing with rational actors. That's the problem. And, countries, it seems to me like people like Russia and China are rational actors. Israel is not a rational actor. So you can't expect to have any sort of conversation. There's no discussion. But I do agree. They are looking to create their greater Israel. And you even can see on their patches on their uniform, they're actually wearing the greater Israel shape of what they're anticipating. And that even includes part of Saudi Arabia. So they have their eyes on a whole big chunk. But I don't think it's going to happen.
No. And the only reason I think it hasn't happened yet is because I don't think that they're not able to drag the United States into this in a way that I think they anticipated they would have been able to. I think their goodwill amongst the populace in this country is completely dead. And that's from the people that were just blindly pro-Israel. I never liked Israel. I always suspected that there was something more to it than what I could see and what meets the eye. That's one of the great benefits to the friendship that I have with Jen and what I've learned over the years from things that I was not really privy to or was able to learn from my mother's side of the family growing up, because I completely rejected that side of my family. But I was able to learn so much of how they do the things that they do, why they've been able to get away with it for so long, the type of systemic control that they've had. And while they still have it, there's too many people that are coming of age now that want nothing to do with that anymore. And when you're seeing so much of the libertarian right in particular that wholeheartedly rejects the state of Israel like the populist left does, then to me that says it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And that's why these conversations are immensely important that we have and that we continue to build this web, as you like to say, Jen.
I say we're cross-pollinating. Where are you located, Erik?
I'm in the northeastern part of America.
Okay.
Well, I'm from. I have a feeling I know where you're from.
He's from Jersey, so yeah.
All I could say is I'll tell you where I am. I'm actually in San Francisco right now, and there is a lot of the Patriots fans that are floating around.
Oh,
they're getting ready.
Wait a minute, Erik, are you a Patriots fan?
Just
I grew up watching Tom Brady. I'm a huge Patriots fan.
Oh, and we were doing so well, you and me. I really thought we had something going here, you and me. And now there it is. Like
who do you root for, Jen? Who do you root for?
Okay, first of all, I'm a born and raised Dolphins fan. And so I grew up to hate the Patriots. Like I was groomed to hate Patriots, I think more so than Israelis are groomed to hate Palestinians. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you can really appreciate. So it's funny. I say to people like, that's like the one thing I don't abide in the chat is Patriots talk. We have a lot of good, like, that's where there's no First Amendment here. I'm just letting you know.
I'm convinced I know where a lot of the hatred actually comes from. So Jen was actually at the Monday. I still to this day believe that the 85 Bears are the greatest team in the history of the NFL. I would say that the 07-08 Patriots would have been the greatest team of all time, but I'm a Giants fan and I can wear that on my head. But in 85, Jen, you went to the Monday Night Football game at the
Orange Bowl.
At the Orange Bowl when the Dolphins beat the Bears. And then the Dolphins hosted the AFC Championship game that year. And unfortunately, they lost to a team called the New England Patriots. And you never got to see that Super Bowl that I think a lot of us really wanted to see. So I think a lot of the animosity actually stems. No.
It also goes back to the snowplow incident. There's a lot of look, I've got a lot of problems with the Patriots. Got a lot of problems with you people.
I also think a lot of them are out here in the Bay this weekend because this is the opportunity for the Patriots to get the 7th championship, and that would put them number 1 all time ahead of Pittsburgh. So I could see, the desire for that to happen. Look, I don't know if I'm going to the game or not. I'm just here for a bunch of business events, so we'll see what ends up happening. But I mean, look.
Yeah, Maddie, exactly. Who's in the Super Bowl? It's the Seahawks and the Patriots. And no, I know most people aren't into it. So are you excited for this Super Bowl, Erik?
It's pretty exciting. I think I have a little work to do that day, but I'll be watching it in the background. It's not like how it used to be with Tom Brady. Like I grew up watching Tom Brady. So I spent the whole 20 years with the guy. Yeah,
That's me with Dan Marino. That's me with Dan Marino.
Yeah.
So I'll give you my best Tom Brady story. So I was at again, I told you I'm a Giants fan. I was at the final regular season game the year that you went 16-0. And I can remember what a lot of people forget was that when he and Moss set the record, he actually ran that exact play, the play before, and he missed him by a couple of feet. And I remember just thinking, because we were the only team that I think led the Patriots in the fourth quarter that year, besides the Ravens, that one game in Baltimore. And I remember thinking, how the hell did we dodge that bullet? And on the very next play, he ran the same play and hit him for like a 70-yard touchdown pass. And all you could do is just tip your hat and didn't deflate.
Yes, in fact, Tom Brady does deflate balls. Okay. Now, whether or not that's some sort of personal projection, I don't know.
Jen's a little salty.
I'm salty.
Yes. But that was an experience where I just remember looking back and saying, is he the first quarterback that I pick on my all-time list? No, because if I still have one game to play in a neutral site, I'm still taking Montana. But I would say that Brady would be second on my list, which, again, coming from a Giants fan, I think is probably pretty fair, because I think Eli, when the chips are on the table, is pretty awesome as well. What is your favorite Brady moment, looking back on all the success you've had over the years?
Oh, man. Favorite Brady moment. I don't know. I kind of felt funny of him going to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I watched that season where he had kind of a rough start, but then ended up winning and then winning the Super Bowl. I mean, that was amazing. I don't know. I have like 1,000 Tom Brady moments, because I was always glued watching the screen and everything. And he kind of spoiled us. We're in New England, we're used to like 4 touchdowns per game average. And we were kind of spoiled on that. No.
His commitment to winning, despite the fact that his personality does leave a little bit to be desired, is something that I can always respect from a competitive standpoint. The one thing I think we can all agree on, though, is that even though you are a Patriots fan, I am sure you are no fan of the Patriots owner, who is basically best friends with Satan Yahoo, which is unfortunate. Hopefully that's not a karma coming on Sunday, but we'll see. With that being said, yes, Jen, yes, he is. Very much.
Just saying.
Just so, yeah. With that being said, it's been a real pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to plug before you go?
No, I appreciate you having me. It was a really great time, and I look forward to passing around the replays and everything, sharing the links with all my friends afterwards. So I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
We'll be doing the same. Links are in the description.
Nice to meet you, Erik.
Same here. Have a good night, brother.
You too, man. You too. Thank you all.
See you later. Well, that was fun. I'm sure
it's always fun when it's somebody that I've been following on Instagram, and then they come on and I get to meet them. Again, that is the whole point of this show, is for me to meet cool people.
That's the whole point. I guess us doing.
Well, that is why it started. Really, yes, kind of. I mean, it started as an opportunity to maintain a platform. And I got to meet really cool people, and it'd be like, oh, I read this great book. I'd love to meet this guy, and he can come on and talk. But if you don't have a podcast, people get a little creeped out when you call them and want to talk about a book that they wrote if you don't have a show.
Pirate Justin with the $2. Happy Thursday. Goyam. Oh, and Jen. Yes. And Jen. Noah Linden with the $10. The Epstein files mostly implicate Zionists and their collaborators and include cannibalism, murder, torture, and sex slavery. And most of them haven't even been released. Again, they've been above the law for a very long time, hopefully not for much longer. Marvin Vargas with the $2. Think Trump uses war with Iran to stop the midterms? Hey, Jen, they've already been floating around this idea that they're going to nationalize the elections. I don't see that happening. But then again, we're living in an age where anything's possible, as far as I can tell. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look at everything else that they're doing. I don't know that it would even necessarily be to stop the midterms. I mean, he's trying to stop any future elections in theory. I mean, his idea is to, people speculate that he wants to create enough of a reaction to be able to put in, to activate the Insurrection Act and really further militarize things. And I don't know, I mean, nothing would surprise me. And war in Iran. But the problem with war in Iran is that something where his ass won't be able to cash that check that his mouth is writing. And the problem is that they'd have to have a draft in this country in order to effectively really have a war against Iran. And I don't think that they're willing to do that.
No, and conscription just won't work. It just can't work. Debbie Troll was her. Thank you, Gezin82 with the $2. Yes, she's quite the troll. This Life is Short with the $4.99. You got that right. Sinwar was a true genius because he knew October 7th would expose everything worldwide. He knew Israel better than they know themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the point. I mean, I don't think they expected the snowball effect that it did turn into. But yes, they knew they'd get a response, and they knew that would get attention.
Voting out of it is possible by waking up America. Pirate Justin with the $2. I don't know if I can agree with you full stop, but I would say that voting does matter if you vote strategically, if you vote effectively. And no, that doesn't mean voting for the lesser of two evils, as so many shitlibs want you to believe. No, that means actually voting for candidates that are outside the two-party system and being very definitive about it and being involved as well. And again, creating this web that we are trying to grow as effectively as we can. This Life is Short with the $1.99. Love your show and thank you for the Palestinian support. You're very welcome and thank you for your support. And why stop there with the $4.99? Why do you think Israel is not allowing people to leave Gaza now that Rafah border has opened? And why allow some to return to build the Riviera? Jen?
I don't understand exactly how they work at the Rafah border in terms of who they let in and they don't let in. It's so random. It's very random. And they do that on purpose because when you keep things in chaos and the people don't know what to expect, they can't make plans. They never know. Am I going to be able to get through? Am I not going to be able to get through? Am I going to get shot? Am I not going to get shot? How long will it take me to get there? Will there be a checkpoint? Like all these things. They love to keep the Palestinian people constantly like in turmoil. I don't know about how they're going to who they're going to let in and out. But the problem isn't so much Israel on that in terms of letting people out. It's Egypt, because the Rafah crossing goes from Gaza to Egypt, and Egypt does not allow a lot of Palestinians to come in because Egypt is working with us, empire, and the Zionist state to maintain empire. So Israel is going to Egypt rather works at our behest in terms of who they're allowing to come over. And as far as letting them back, no, they never let them come back. That's why you still have refugee camps in Jordan. They don't let them back.
Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. Please invite Rachel Blevins on the show. Our Rachel, if you can look into that, please. Obviously, we always appreciate a suggestion. Noah Linden with the $5. Western leaders always do the opposite of what voters want. Therefore, Westerners have no political agency and have neither freedom nor democracy. The problem here in the States is that we are actually the type of nation that could have change if we wanted it. How do I know? Because we're armed. You only need to rally a certain percentage of the population to actually make that change. But we're so distracted by so many pointless conversations and ideological differences over nothing as far as I'm concerned.
We have no freedom. There's no freedom.
Yeah, what freedom?
Only the top 1% has freedom.
Do we have
everybody else are wage slaves?
Do we have freedom? Do we have freedom? Freedom? Like Kamala said? No
freedom.
No freedom.
No, I mean, to me, people, when you're living in a country that has more wealth than any other nation has ever had, and yet everybody but the top percentage of people are struggling to live, working in jobs they don't like just so that they can survive, living to pay for housing, like not having healthcare. None of this is freedom. That's not freedom. That's slavery. That's servitude. That's being wage slaves in a country that has more wealth than anything. So
Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Right. They withheld the files to protect Putin. Yeah, that made sense. Exactly. It's not supposed to make sense. They're just hoping you don't notice. Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. The elephant in the room, Dr. Oz is a Muslim, but Zios are okay.
I don't understand why. Well, we don't care that Dr. Oz is a Muslim. I care that Dr. Oz is a piece of shit. I mean, we could talk about that.
Is he as big a piece of shit as John Fetterman? Probably not. Gezin82 with the $2. F. Ben Shapiro, Rage-O-Meter. I think we all get a little rage when we see Lil Ben. Libertarian Social Dem with the 199. Jen, please let out the meter on Dana Loesch.
Well, I would let out a lot of rage on Dana Loesch. I haven't seen her rear her ugly head yet.
She's just disappeared she's kind of irrelevant now at this point. But then again, the NRA was never really necessary.
Well, and it doesn't even matter now, because if you're allowed to, just summarily execute somebody after taking their lawfully carried conceal, what is the point of the Second Amendment? So where the hell is the NRA? Where is Dana Loesch in all this?
Getting paid off not to say anything. That's
yeah.
why.
Well, that's very convenient that when Alex Preddy gets murdered in the street, why wasn't Dana Loesch saying something about that? Where's the NRA? I don't know.
Because it's all politics. That's why. And VA Chattel with the 199. Y'all rock. We thank you, my friend, very much. There are people throughout history that pay close attention to what goes on and why things happen the way that they do. Now, when it comes to trying to stand up to power and how things ultimately unfold in the United States, there's not much that could be said regarding changes in our overall dynamic, especially when it comes to things like energy. And that leads more so to the problems with why people are afraid to stand up for what they believe in the United States. And this is why the gentleman's name I do not have, but if somebody in the chat wants to confirm, who was on Tucker Carlson the other day, talking about what happens when you come up with great ideas in the United States. When you come up with great ideas and you get in the way of corporate profits, and what ultimately ends up happening, and what has happened to a lot of interesting people over our history, and how they just disappear.
Convinced that the U.S. government is totally transparent about energy.
No, I think they're totally opaque about energy.
Really? Tell me.
Oh, yes. I think the U.S. government probably has unlocked 0 point or close to 0 point energy, which would be pulling energy out of the vacuum. We have inventors that have done that over and over and over.
And making energy of apparently nothing.
Well, we could start with, there's a man named Charles Pogue, who in the 30s tinkered with his carburetor and was able to get 200 miles a gallon.
I mean, could you imagine what it would be like today if we had automobiles that got 200 miles to the gallon?
Well, we can't. That would never. That's why they couldn't allow that. They cannot allow that.
But it's possible.
Well, a lot of things are possible if you don't have, greed and corporate whoredom. But that's just not where we are.
Not yet.
All right, Gezin wants us to do the rage meter. Can we just do it and get it over with?
Fine.
We got to do it. We had it before, but.
Okay. Gezin apparently doesn't like getting 20 miles to the gallon on his car instead of 200.
It was engineers, investigated scientists. It's totally proven. It worked. He was going to be a zillionaire or whatever. He's going to transform society. And the problem was, once the news of his engine got out, the oil stocks crashed. They just crashed. So the oil industry lobbied the U.S. government, we have to do something about this. And in 1951, the Invention Secrecy Act was passed. So now, if you patent any device that is more than 20% efficient, that's instantly classified. That is now a state secret. It's vital to national security. You can't talk about it. You can't build it, and you can't sell it unless you sell it to the U.S. military. You cannot do it. That went on for a while. And then there was a man named Tom Ogle.
Jen.
And Tom is this is the 70s now. He accidentally rewires his lawnmower engine to take the exhaust and pump it back into the carburetor. And this thing runs on a gallon of gas for 78 hours or something like that.
You know, I remember on a Bill Maher episode years ago, I want to say like 2010, 2011, and he said at the time, do you realize that there has been no standard improvement when it comes to MPG averages in automobiles since 1985? That we're still getting the same average per automobile as we did at that point, which was almost 25, 30 years ago, that there had been no improvements. Does anyone really believe that there hadn't been improvements and that ultimately it was the corporatization of our government that prevented it from coming out? I would think just about anybody with a reasonable amount of independent thinking would agree that, yes, we probably have been lied to for a very long time. The Honda Civic was getting 49 to the gallon, was being the key word.
He reconfigures his car. It's like a 1976 Ford Galaxy, you know, like a boat. And he's getting 200 miles to the gallon on the thing. He's offered $1 billion from an oil-producing country. Shell Oil offers him $25 million for the patent that he considers, but they're going to shelve it. So he says no. It's considered, you know, maybe one of the biggest inventions of the century. Suddenly, Tom, without a history of drug use, stumbles out of a bar. He's drunk and he's killed. And that's the end of Tom Ogle's story. And that all disappears. All that research goes away. And this repeats over and over and over again till we get to Stanley Meyer. And you might remember Stanley Meyer and the water car, because this is the 1990s now. So now we have a vehicle that we're not even talking about fossil fuels and protecting a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We've got a car that runs on water using electrolysis, which has been around since the 1700s. But electrolysis requires a lot of energy and perfect water without impurities. But Stanley's figured out how to take tap water, put it into his car, and run his car on water. And what it does is splits the water into hydrogen, oxygen, runs on hydrogen. Hydrogen is a fuel, it works. And it works, and he drives it all over the place. It's all over the news. Engineers look at it. They say, this is the invention of the century. This changes everything. He's offered $1 billion and millions of dollars, and everyone wants his engine. And he's sitting at a Cracker Barrel with his brother and some investors, and they raise a glass to toast the new investment to go into the future. And they take their toast, and Stanley suddenly doesn't feel well. He runs outside. He starts vomiting. His brother chases after him and says, what's going on? And Stanley says, they poisoned me, and he dies.
Oh. Okay, so people need to know how context as to who this is and who's speaking.
Curtis Yarvin. Is that his name? Let me confirm. That name sounds familiar. Curtis Yarvin. No, he's somebody else, but he does advocate. You know what? Let me see if I can. Give me 1 second, guys. I should be able to confirm who this is.
But essentially what he's talking about is how people who have created alternative power systems and energy systems to fossil fuel have been Epstein. Is that basically what we're talking about?
Yes, that is correct. The Y files, is that what this is? Yeah, I think that's his channel.
Yeah, he's the host of the Y Files on YouTube, is what I'm looking at in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, what have we said about conspiracy theories? They're truths that just haven't been accepted as fact yet, pretty much.
And in the medical examiner's report, it says he died of an aneurysm. But if you read the report, you can tell the medical examiner didn't really like that, because he wrote some other stuff like, oh, he said he was poisoned, but toxicology doesn't really show it. But it says he died of an aneurysm. And that technology is now gone. The patent's useless because Stanley faked the numbers because he didn't trust the government, because he had another invention that most people don't know about before his water car.
That's his name?
Which was this toroid ring. A toroid is a donut. This donut-shaped ring that he invented that created energy out of nothing and levitated. But he patented it. It got and it got hit with the Secrecy Act, and they made his life miserable. But people started to learn about that, and that brings us. There are other inventors in between. Townsend Brown invents this anti-gravity technology. He runs into all kinds of bad luck. All these men have their research stolen. They're broken into. They're carrying guns. They're threatened. They're disappearing. It happens over and over and over again. I have an episode on this. It's very sad. And we get to Floyd Sparky Sweet. He's my favorite because his inventions, he videotaped all of his stuff. And you see him in his workshop. And Sparky, he's an engineer. He's a garage tinkerer, but he's an engineer. And this was supervised by a military physicist. Maybe it was a mistake. And you see him running a fan at high RPMs. And then he's got light bulbs, all of this energy, and it's all running off this little box the size of a deck of cards. And he puts in 0.03 milliwatts, and he gets out all the watts you want. It's a device that no matter what you attach to it, it just, whatever the need is, it will give you the energy. This is Sparky Sweet. This actually connects to UFO technology. I don't know if we'll go there, but it does connect. So Sparky's got this invention. He gets some help from a military physicist. Gets a visit late one night, 2 men in suits come talk to him, say goodnight. He has a heart attack. Ambulance comes. They grab Sparky. The wife is not allowed in the ambulance. He dies. Soon after, a couple of black vans pull up. They take all his stuff, all his notes, every piece of equipment, and it just disappears. And that's the last we hear of it.
About when was this?
I would say this is late 90s. I mean, Stanley Meyer was 1998. So this is
recently.
Recently, yeah.
Now, some may think that some of this is kooky stuff, and that's fine. But do I think that there's a lot of truth in what this guy's talking about in terms of how the government keeps things suppressed? You know, kind of like the Epstein files, kind of like the truth about our elections, truth about UFOs, truth about whether or not we're living in a simulation. All jokes aside, when we have opportunities as we the people to make our lives better, the powers that be will always figure out a way to either shut us up or just remove people altogether and steal their technology and also make sure that it never comes to surface. You know, it's one thing if their intention is to just steal the technology because they want to use it for themselves. But at the same time, is it really a stretch to think that big oil doesn't employ mafia tactics when they want to remove people that are in their profits?
Have we not covered the Stephen Donziger story at length? Yeah, that's exactly what they do. They completely use mafia tactics. I mean, of course.
And on top of everything else, who do you think wants us to go to war with Iran more than anyone else? It's the military-industrial complex of which big oil is completely intertwined with. It's all one big clusterfuck. And as we know, the military-industrial complex has the biggest carbon footprint out of any entity in the world. The United States military, that is. So yes, when there's an opportunity for more war, more profit, yes. And will they kill people as a result? Well, they've dragged us into plenty of conflicts, plenty of times. So this is one that's not going to change. And so I bring this up to conclude matters for this evening because I think there's a very important point here. When we ask ourselves, why has there not been a revolution? Why is it that people haven't risen up and have wanted to, deal with this problem? As Panagenis says, if you're going to read anything, read War is a Racket by Major General Smedley Butler. Everything is a scam for rich people, and everything that they put us through is basically one giant scam. If you get in the way of their bread, they're going to do what they're going to do. Now, I will probably address this on Saturday regarding what's going on, as some of you may have been paying attention recently when it comes to precious metals. and what's going on in the world of gold and silver because of the devaluing of the US dollar, the growth of the BRICS currency that is going to be backed by gold, the hoarding of precious metals by China, the devaluation of the metal futures in the US stock market. When the empire crumbles, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be very ugly.
We're in it.
We're in it. It's happening. That's why we talk about revolution. Not because we're trying to scare people. We're trying to have people come to terms with the reality of the world that we're living in. We are going to have a revolution in the United States, whether you want it or not. So you just have to decide what side of that revolution you're going to be on. I don't want it to be a civil war, and I don't think it's going to be. But I think the powers that be are going to try every which way to either prevent us from rising up against their tyranny, or we as people are going to figure out a way to collaborate as one unit against the machine and figure out a way to beat it. But even if we can't, we're at least going to try. I don't want to sit around thinking about all the horrific things that are going on every day, and there's very little, if anything, that we can do about it. But history has proven that there have been people who have been trying to change things for the better for so very long. But you know what I've noticed, Jen? I've noticed that so many of these people, these are mice fighting gorillas.
Yeah.
But when you have thousands of mice fighting a gorilla, then you might have a chance. So if people put their differences aside and figure out how to collaborate, we might have a chance. If we don't, we will certainly lose. That's why we have conversations with people that maybe under different circumstances you might not have.
Well, because the class of people that we need to engage is a lot bigger than most people would like to see, right? Because what we're really talking about is the 99%. And you're not going to agree with all of those people in that group, but yet all of that group is what is required to have a revolution. It's like it needs to be all of us. And so whether or not we agree with everybody, that's not the point of that. We're not going to get anywhere with the way it is right now. So the goal is you have a revolution and then you create something new. And there's something on the other side of that, and whatever that looks like. And the reality is American empire is ending with or without a revolution. It's ending because the rest of the world has had it with us. And it is only a matter of time. All empires fall. So whether or not we take this as an opportunity as the citizens of this country to rise up and have a revolution, while they're also dealing with outside forces that are going to beat down American empire, that's what makes this be the opportunity. But empire is ending regardless of whether or not we have a revolution in this country. So, yeah, I mean, the rest of the world is done with us. They've had it. They don't believe us. They don't trust us. They don't want to negotiate with us, and nor should they. Everybody we negotiate with, we kill their negotiators. Who would want to negotiate with that? We don't follow treaties. We don't follow pacts. We don't follow agreements. We pull out of any sort of, global type of agreement the minute that it doesn't suit us. Every administration changes from the one before. We have no consistency. The world is sick of our shit. So it is what it is.
I'm sick of it too. Smash that like button, share and subscribe. And do all
Did you talk about Patreon at all tonight?
I did.
Okay. I just want to mention to people very briefly, Patreon is, although we do like to get subscribers on Patreon, you guys can go over to Patreon and join there for free. Now, right now, there is not special content over there because that community is sort of just sitting there supporting this community. But what I'd like to do is have that be, we talk about how many people talk about how important it is that they have this community, this chat, and what can we do to keep that going when we're not live, right? Like, yeah, we can comment on clips and we could do that. So I'm looking at possibly like using our Patreon page to further create our community and keep an ongoing chat or bulletin board or whatever we want. And again, you guys can join on Patreon for free. There is a way to, and there is nothing over there that's exclusive right now to paid members. The only thing we do for paid members is when we do a call-in show That's generally paid members. But yeah, I mean, people have commented about wanting to create, and I think that's the point, is community. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to be trying to, actually, I've enrolled Rachel to try to, figure out some ways to prop up our Patreon community for all of us to have that as a communication.
Well, Tony D suggested a Revolutionary Change Discord.
I know everybody wants a Discord, but we're dealing with a Gen Xer who doesn't know Discord. So if somebody wants to do a Discord,
I don't know it either, but I think we can learn. Probably.
No, don't volunteer me. I'm not dealing with Discord. I can't even understand what all the emojis mean. I don't understand Discord. If somebody wanted to do that for us, great. But in the meantime, we already have a Patreon. It gets us off of Google. It's an opportunity for us to,
Mehdi, that's a great question. No, we have not employed the upscrolled live feature as of yet, but that's a very good idea. I think it might actually help grow the channel faster because that's where people want to go. So yes, Colin, let's make note of that and let's see what it takes to get that set up. And let's clear our final super chatters of the night. Just got
Here's the difference, guys, about us on Patreon. And that's something that we're going to need to look into. Right now, we don't use Patreon for our content. We use our content is on YouTube. So there wouldn't be a reason for them to demonetize us because we're not putting like content over there that would get demonetized. It would really be more for us to have community so that we're off of Google. And again, this is something I'm putting out there to take advantage of Patreon since we're using it anyway. So we won't be putting a lot of content on there that would get us demonetized.
Enlightenment with the 349 euros. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Thank you for staying up late with us. Really appreciate it. Citizen Pendeo with the 20 pesos. Seattle's going to push around the spy Gatriots on Sunday. We shall see. I hope so, but we shall see. And Jim Talib with the $5 super sticker. Always a pleasure. So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. Sign up at Patreon. Make sure that you also consider supporting us over at our super PAC, which of course is Revolutionary Change PAC. And you can click that QR code right over. I don't know if it's my head or Jen's head or that direction, wherever it is, check it out. And you also can follow us on Rumble as well as Upscrolled.
And yes, Upscrolled is free, guys. So I see people wondering that. Yeah, I don't know. The truth is all of these things are going to eventually be compromised. That's where we're at. I mean, at the end of the day, humans are at the top of the food chain on these things. And they're going to use their discretion. Tall Chick in Vegas says she can't find us on Upscrolled. Where are we?
Revolutionary Change on Upscrolled. At least that's where we should be. So here's hoping. We have to get that figured out.
Oh, now you heard Discord is no longer secure due to having allowed a chat GPT or AI. Well, hey, there's that. And again, it's all what you use it for, right? So, yes, we just said we have our Upscrolled account. We're on there.
So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we asked.
Thank you, David Todd.
What? Love the what? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, Jen does that to me sometimes. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. I will see you.
Free Palestine.
And free Palestine. Good night, guys.